I Know What You Did Last Summer was actually kind of good. Let's get into it. I'm Pamela, welcome back to the channel. So although there were a lot of flaws with this movie, there were some things about it that I actually liked. And I did go into this movie expecting to not like it whatsoever because most of the reviews that I've seen online were pretty negative. So I was actually pleasantly surprised. And fair warning, there will be heavy spoilers in this video. So if you have not seen it yet and don't want to be spoiled, this video is not for you. Come back to it after you've seen the movie. Directed by Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, I Know What You Did Last Summer is a legacy sequel to the 1997 slasher classic, attempting to revive the franchise with a mix of nostalgia, new faces, and gory thrills. Set in Southport, North Carolina, 27 years after the infamous 1997 massacre, this new film brings back original stars like Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. as Julie, James, and Ray, while also introducing a fresh cast. Now, despite a few crowd-pleasing moments and brutal kills, the film does sort of struggle with tonal inconsistencies, a derivative plot, and sort of a lack of originality, leading to a lot of mixed reviews for fans and newcomers alike. The film opens up on the 4th of July where our main character, Ava, returns home to attend her best friend's engagement party. Ava and her friend group consisting of Danica, Teddy, and Milo reunite with an old friend, Stevie, and they take a late night drive to watch some fireworks, and they unintentionally cause an accident. So similar to the first movie, they are sort of responsible for an accident, but it is a little different this time. So in the first movie, Ray was driving the car and he actually hit a person. This time around, Teddy was standing in the road, which caused a driver to veer off the side of the road and their truck fell down into the ocean. So a little different, but a lot of similarities, both taking place on July 4th. It was on the same road, but this time they do call the cops, but they don't stick around to be questioned. So the whole group has to keep this secret until a year later when it's revealed that someone knows what they did. 1 year later, Danica is having her bridal shower, but this time she is not engaged to Teddy anymore. She is with someone new named Wyatt. We find out that Teddy skipped out on her about a month before their wedding. So she clearly moved on very quickly. They're all sort of dealing with the trauma in different ways. I do think this movie was a little bit meta and sort of self-referential with the character Tyler. So she hosts a true crime podcast. She is wearing a Helen Shivers t-shirt. And I do sort of like stuff like that. I like when things get a little bit meta. It's a little cheesy, but I kind of like it. This movie is sort of campy, which I do believe the director Jennifer Robinson said in an interview like months ago. I mean, the first two movies are sort of campy themselves, so as far as that, the tone is a little similar as the first movie. I do think a lot of the kills in this movie were far more brutal than the original, which is always a good thing. But this movie was really lacking chase scenes. There really wasn't any good chase scenes, especially not on the level of Helen's chase scene from the first movie. I think the best scene was with Ava and Tyler at, what was it called? The Bayshore house, which used to be the Shivers store. That was a pretty intense scene, sort of suspenseful, but other than that, I do think this movie sort of lacked suspense. There were a couple good jump scares, but nothing too crazy, and it wasn't really scary. This movie wasn't particularly scary to me. I do think that first kill with Wyatt was pretty good, but obviously I wasn't very attached to him as a character at all, so it didn't really hold a lot of weight, but it was cool to see. I do think that the characters in this movie were pretty good. They definitely could have been fleshed out more, and I do think Teddy was the best character. Speaking of Teddy, his death, how did he not notice the fisherman standing right there? That actually made me laugh. That was a little ridiculous in my opinion. This movie definitely had a lot more sex than the original two. We had Ava hooking up with Tyler in the airport bathroom. Ava and Milo kind of get into it briefly before he leaves and then gets killed. His kill was pretty good. I kind of suspected him as the killer at one point, only because when Tyler gets killed and she sees who the killer is, but obviously we as the audience don't see who it is, when she sees who it is, she says, "You." And I'm thinking at this point, she doesn't know a lot of the characters. She didn't meet a lot of the characters. She only met Ava, who obviously we know it wasn't her because she was also being chased in that scene. She met Milo, so I was thinking that it was him. And then of course my mind went to Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr. Since we're talking spoilers, we know that they did the wildest thing with Ray being one of the killers at the end, which was absolutely insane. And I actually kind of love that they did that. I feel like it is a very divisive choice, but I kind of love it, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But when Tyler said you, I was thinking there's only 3 options. One of them was Ray, and at this point I'm thinking to myself, are they really gonna do it? Are they gonna have the balls to make Ray, one of the original characters, be a killer? And sure enough, they did. So we will get into that some more. But we also had a Sarah Michelle Gellar cameo. We saw the return of Helen Shivers. Of course, it was just a dream sequence. Danica was having a nightmare. And I love that they did this. It was very fan servicey, but I think it was a lot of fun. You know, you gotta give the fans of the original a little something. We all wanted to see her back. I'm sure she wanted to return herself, considering her husband was in the movie. And I thought it was fun. Like I said, fan servicey, but I'm not complaining. I loved it. There was also a line about the Bahamas, what happened in the sequel, that I loved. Teddy was like, why don't we just take my boat and fuck off to the Bahamas? And Ray said that's not a good idea for reasons I don't want to get into. And of course we do also have the return of Jennifer Love Hewitt. I thought her performance was great. I really did. I was kind of expecting it to be a little cheesy, a little underwhelming, but I thought she was great. She gave a great performance. And we learned that Julie and Ray were once married and then they got divorced, and it does seem like a little bit of a nasty divorce. They seem to hate each other. They don't even like the mention of each other's names. So I was a little bummed about that at first, that they're not together, but then of course Ray turns out to be the killer at the end. Now we do have the first reveal with Stevie. She is one of the people in the friend group. She was the estranged friend that they hadn't seen pretty much since high school. She went to rehab. Stuff happened with her dad where he took all of her college money, so she has been having a rough go of it, and her friends, the rest of this group, sort of abandoned her after high school. But they reunited with her a year ago, just on the same night of the accident, and within the past year since that accident, she has really become best friends with Danica. Meanwhile, Ava kind of disappeared and abandoned Danica. So we find out Stevie's motive is the guy who died, Sam Cooper, she was in love with, and he was helping her in her recovery because she did go to rehab, and he was worried that she was going to relapse, and then he died that night, and she didn't realize until later that he is the person who they caused to veer off the road. And I do think her motive was a little dumb, just because they were you know, you were there too that night. You pretty much caused the accident with us. And she was like, yeah, but then you didn't want to go talk to the cops. So I don't know. It wasn't that well written in my opinion. And I did suspect Stevie at one point, but I didn't suspect her motive. At first I was thinking, what if she is Ray's daughter? Ray and Julie's daughter, which didn't we think that that's what the storyline was? When they first started filming this movie, didn't we think that her character was their kid? I actually totally forgot about that. But after I was kind of suspecting Ray, after Tyler's death, I was thinking, oh my god, what if Stevie's also one of the killers working with Ray and that is his daughter? Obviously that is not the case. Stevie was not Ray's daughter, but they were working together. And now Ray's motive, I do kind of like. His motive was basically that the town is forgetting about them. They're trying to sweep under the rug what happened to them back in '97. And the whole thing about trauma, I think it really tied into the movie because we have those scenes with Julie, who is a college professor now, and in the first half of the movie, Julie to her class is talking about trauma and how it can really change the brain. So I think that they did a pretty good job of setting that up to where it made sense for Ray to sort of snap. If we didn't have those scenes with Julie talking about trauma, changing the brain, it would have felt really random and out of nowhere. So I think they did do a good job of setting that up. So I thought his reveal was pretty good. At first, I was kind of oof, I don't know. But by the end of it, I was like, you know what? this kind of works for me and I'm kind of loving it. And I love that they made Rey a killer. Again, I know it's very divisive amongst fans. I've seen a lot of fans be upset with this, and I totally get it. I really do. I understand making someone who was once a good character, one of the original characters who was innocent and good, turning them into a killer is crazy. But for me, it works for this franchise. And that is only because I'm not super attached to these characters. Not like I am with Scream. So if they had done this to Dewey Riley in Scream 5, I would have absolutely rioted. I would have been devastated. I would have been outraged. So I totally understand where some fans are coming from. I'm just not super obsessed and attached to this franchise or these characters, so that is why it kind of worked for me. You know, if they ever made Sidney Prescott a Ghostface, I would absolutely hate it. It wouldn't make any sense to me. But with Rey, it just works for me. In that first movie, he was kind of a red herring, and I feel like in the second movie he wasn't in it much, so it works for Rey, whereas it would not have worked for Julie. I think it was a ballsy move, and if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have liked the movie as much as I do. Because if it was just Stevie, if she was the only reveal, and if we only had her motive, I would have been really disappointed with this movie. I would have walked out not really feeling anything, feeling underwhelmed, and thinking like, damn, they really didn't give us much. There wasn't really a lot going on. But I think with Rey, it was a good twist. It shocked me. I think it was bold, and I honestly loved it. And Jennifer Love Hewitt's performance in that reveal with Rey was good. When she said, "What are you waiting for?" Man, I had chills. Like that honestly wasn't cheesy. It was good. It was intense. But now this does kind of create a few plot holes, because am I correct when I'm thinking that Stevie and Rey had a couple of scenes alone where they're talking about what is happening with the killer? So that doesn't make sense to me. If they're both the killers, but they're talking about the killer and no one else is around, who are they putting on this performance for? I don't know. Maybe they're truly just crazy. I really don't know. And also with Rey's motive about their story and what happens to them sort of getting swept under the rug, I feel like they shouldn't have killed Tyler, the true crime podcast host, because wouldn't she have helped to get their story out there? They should have spared her, especially because she was like, I'm a fan. Another reason I like this movie is because it is more of a whodunit compared to the original movie, because with Ben Willis, his reveal, we didn't know him, you know? He's not a character that we knew. The original movie is not like the Scream movies where it's someone in the friend group. But with this one, it was. Stevie was a part of the friend group. So I do like that aspect of the movie. And now at the end of the movie, I do really love that Danica survived. So Danica, in like the first half of the movie, or the very beginning, I wasn't crazy about her character. I kind of found her a little bit annoying, but she grew on me. She did. After her second fiance, Wyatt, was killed, she started to grow on me. She had a couple of funny moments, like when she was like, you know that meme about when someone you love dies, will you still do your skincare routine? Well, I now know the answer is yes. So she had a funny couple of moments like that, and I was really rooting for her. I wanted her to live, and I do think that she dies at one point. She gets stabbed with the hook, and then she goes overboard, and I was actually very upset because I was fully expecting her to survive, which we do know that she does, but in this moment when I really thought she died, I was like, oh man, I thought she was gonna live. And I was actually pretty devastated when she died. And then of course she washes up on shore, and I was so happy. So that was another moment that actually made me feel something, and that is something that I always talk about with these new movies that come out. If a movie does not make me feel a single thing, then in my opinion, it's a terrible movie. Is this movie great? Not really, but it did make me feel some things, and that is really all that I can ask for. And then at the end, we have Ava and Danica leaving the hospital together. They seem to be like loopy on drugs. I loved it. I thought it was funny. Their chemistry was great. They were talking about what happened to them and how Stevie survived. So we know that Stevie lived, and it kind of seems like they are setting up a sequel, especially with the Carla cameo in the mid-credits scene, which I thought was great. I'm so happy that we got Brandy back as Carla. It was funny when she was watching the news and she was like, I hope Julie is talking to a therapist. And then of course Julie shows up to her house and Julie has a photo of Carla and Julie, and there's a red X on Carla's face. And they talk about getting together, teaming up to fuck somebody up, and I'm excited. I'm excited if there's going to be a sequel that focuses more on Julie and Carla. I would love that. Also, would just be another way to mirror the second movie, because Julie and Carla was sort of the focus of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So I am super excited for that. Hopefully we do get a sequel. But yeah, if I had to rate this movie, I would probably give it, I don't know, maybe like a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. There were some really cool things about it. There were some not so great things about it, but it's hard to make a perfect movie, you know? But let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a comment, especially about the Ray reveal. How do you guys feel about Ray being one of the killers? I kind of loved it, but I totally understand if you don't. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on future movie reviews like this one. Please also go follow me over on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and I will see you guys next time.